You know, I must have delivered in the course of my life, and this is no exaggeration, at least 10,000 lectures, forums, symposia, colloquia, deliberations of the life of Dr. Jose Rizal. You know, I started teaching fresh from UP in 1964 in the Lyceum of the Philippines with Dr. Sotero Laurel and with Dr. Jose Laurel Sr. I was close to the Laurel family because of their closeness to nationalism and patriotism. And if you allow at least, let us say, for each year, 217 lectures, including classrooms, not to mention seminars abroad, all over the United States, and just recently in Geneva, Switzerland, last May 25th, where with the mayor of Geneva, Mayor Remy Pagani, we inaugurated a plaque of the life of Rizal in Geneva. He called it Ginebra. By the way, I was in Geneva representing the country in the 44th session of the ECOSOC, one of the principal organs of the United Nations in Geneva, also in Lausanne. As well. Since 1964, I must have delivered more or less 10,000 lectures on the life works, writings of Dr. Jose Rizal. I may not even have counted them precisely because before 64, 63, 62, there were student seminars in the University of the Philippines. It is a topic I have always loved to dwell on, the life of Jose Rizal. And I am now in the sapphire celebration of my educational years. 46, 37 of those in the Royal and Pontifical University of Santo Tomas, where Jose Rizal studied the initial courses in medicine. By the way, as we commemorate the quadricentennial foundation of La Universidad de Santo Tomas, one part of that, a major part of that, will have to be Jose Rizal's student days in UST. Another major part will be Manuel Luis Quezon. What I have to say, most of you must know by now, since all of you are my students, the great part of you in PUP, another great school, which I joined on invitation of Dr. Nemesio E. Prudente, a very exemplary Filipino nationalist. You know him to be Rizal as the son of what we can call a prosperous landowner and sugar planter of Chinese-Filipino descent of the island of Luzon in Calamba. His mother, Senora Doña Teodora Alonso, was one of the most highly educated women in our country at that time, and obviously exerted a powerful influence on the life of Rizal. He was educated at the Ateneo Municipal de Manila, where he got his high school. At that time, the high school was Bachiller of the small community of Filipinos in Madrid and in Barcelona. And they were fighting for what they call as the Philippine cause. To them, to these propagandists, the chief enemy of reform was Spain to them. And they were doing this in the liberal chapter in the history of Spain, the Cadiz Constitution. In fact, as I analyzed the life of Rizal, he was not really anti-Spain. Per contra, he was anti-Franciscan, anti-Augustinian, anti-Dominican friars, but not anti-Spain. He was in fact a most brilliant product of Spanish education and Spanish culture at the time. From Madrid, he continued to study ophthalmology in Heidelberg, in Paris. These were neighboring states, and he published his Noli Me Tangere. I'm giving a short summary. In 1891, he published a sequel, the El Filibusterismo, which was published in Ghent. And in between that, between 1887 and 1891, he published in 1890 Antonio de Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, which was a historical study, a copy of which he was able to get at the university, at the British Museum. That's why he had to go to the British Museum. Although that book, Antonio de Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, was published in fact, Mexico, he could not find a copy anywhere else except in London. So he had to go to London in the British Museum, where studiously and meticulously he copied the annotation, the Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, and he wrote his annotaciones. And that is why the book is called Anotaciones sobre Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. He conducted his education there, I'm summarizing, and then he returned to the Philippines in 1892. He founded the La Liga Filipina in Manila, but he was deported, or he was exiled to Davina in northwest Mindanao. He remained there for 4 years doing scientific work, researching on biology, zoology, and sending specimens to Germany for commentary by the scientists in Germany. And then it became gradual to Jose Rizal, who started as reformist. It dawned on him there could be no alternative to independence rather than just reforms. In fact, this was what divided the propagandists, those who favored the assimilation to Spain, and those who favored independence. Jose Rizal, at this point, was already favoring Philippine independence. Sadly, it was Marcelo H. del Pilar who was favoring the assimilation policy. And of course, he wrote his Ultimo Adios. The poem recited here, or rendered into song by the talented group, he did that in Fort Santiago on the eve of his execution, December 30, 1896. The poem of Rizal, the Ultimo Adios, is regarded now as one of the great masterpieces in Spanish literature. I am proud to tell you, students in Latin America, especially Mexico, they study Ultimo Adios as part of Spanish verses. And some of them could recite a stanza or two from the Ultimo Adios. How many of you here, Filipinos, can boast you can recite one or two stanzas of the Ultimo Adios? But Mexican students do that. He was born in Calamba, of course you know this, and even as a young one, he demonstrated such great talent in poetry. He wrote his first poem at the age of 6. At the age of 6. At the age of 8, he wrote in 1877. And then he wrote other poems. And then he went on to pursue a Doctor of Medicine course at the University of Santo Tomas, but he was not able to finish it there. You know, the travel bug had hit Rizal and said, I have to go abroad. It is a bug. Once it hits you, you have to travel. Once you started traveling, and then the travel bug has hit you, you make it a point to travel every year. Sometimes twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, as a way of life in pursuit of your specialization. Jose Rizal was like that. Up to Europe, all of Western Europe, up to Eastern Europe, as a matter of fact, up to Leipzig, and the Humboldt University zu Berlin, he was there, in Vienna, and he spoke several languages, several dialects, including Malayan, and of course Spanish. He was acquainted with so many languages. He was a linguist, plus he had a knowledge of Greek, Chinese, Japanese, Sanskrit, Hebrew, and Arabic. 22 in all. So that I'm surprised now, there are plans to let us go back to some more units of Spanish. Students are complaining, hindi namin kailangan ng Spanish, it's not relevant. You will never know what is relevant or irrelevant. Spanish is the key to the writings of Rizal, of Mabini. In fact, of all of those who fought for Spanish, for Philippine freedom under Spain, they are all written in Spanish, and we read them just in their English translations. In Spain, in the Diario, he was so active in La Solidaridad. He wrote poems, ensayos after ensayos, using his magic name, Laong Laan, his nom de guerre, Laong Laan, and although the editor was Marcelo H. del Pilar. I think the purpose of Rizal in writing those essays was to emphasize to the Filipinos our own history, that we should live up to the noble traditions of our history, assert our militant Philippinism, and claim our position in the world of nations. Independencia absoluta y completa, as Manuel Luis Quezon would later say, and as Don Sergio Ospeña Sr. would repeat over and over. He studied very hard. The years of exile of Rizal in the Pinan were devoted to research, from frogs and name any biological species, and starting his own classroom and students and laboratory right in the Pinan. He spent his time so productively, so fruitfully. I like to see that hold a rifle, unlike Emilio Aguinaldo, unlike Andres Bonifacio. He simply used the power of his intellect, and what a powerful brain that was. The power of his pen, and what a powerful pen he wielded. He was not a man of action in the sense he did not join in a battlefield, unlike Napoleon, or even like Joan of Arc, the national hero of France, or like Gimoteno of Japan, or like Jose de San Martin of Argentina, or like Simon Bolivar of Venezuela, and so on and so forth. They held guns, and they are the national heroes. In Jose Rizal, it was simply his pen, and his weapon of mass destruction was his will, his pen that was a weapon of mass destruction to Rizal. He did not wield a sword, but the pen that he used was so powerful that it redeemed a people from their political slavery. It emancipated the Filipino nation. Of course, we need the sword, like we need the sword of the great Andres Bonifacio that is needed to shake off the yoke of a foreign power, be it Spanish or American. But the revolution prepared by Bonifacio was only the effect. It was only the result. It was only the consequence of the spiritual redemption brought about by the pen, by the powerful, magnificent pen of Dr. Jose Rizal. So you can see, the Rizal I present to you is a many splendored genius, kaleidoscopic, many splendor. He was endowed by all the gifts that nature could give. He was the advocate and the paladin of nationalism. He was a martyr of the Philippine cause, and he fought against the oppression of the Filipino people. When he was born, at the time he was born, it seemed to be taken for granted that Filipinos could be slapped, could be thrown in jail, could be regarded as slaves. He fought against that so eloquently, so effectively, that the name Jose Rizal is a byword. It is a byword to every Filipino home. And I have yet to see a Filipino home Well, the poster of Rizal or the picture of Rizal is not there. Or have you sent a letter where the stamp did not bear the portrait of Rizal? Or you used your money in great circulation that carried the name of Rizal? Or you construct your house with cement that is named after Rizal? Or you come from a town full of monuments of Rizal? Or you come from a barrio or a poblacion where the streets are named after Rizal? Or you must have come from educational institutions that are called Rizal College, or you belong to a society, as I do, which is named after Rizal, Los Caballeros de Rizal, or you are a member of trade unions that carry the name of Rizal. So you can see how Rizal had become a byword. At one time, there was even a movie in Makati called Rizal, with the signature of Rizal. That is what I mean when I tell you the name Rizal had become part of the national psyche, part of the national soul. You come in, these are lady students. You come in, don't be. Come in, forum in Manila, because you can go to Alamba and then you have no audience. You can go to the Pita, you have no audience except some dedicated souls. That's why I told Amber Ocampo it has to be Fort Santiago, because I have my students in Manila. Ganyan din sa UP. Nag-speech ako yan Wednesday pa lang, convocation, walang estudyante. Sabi sa akin ng dean, sabi ko, ba't nag-organize ka ng Wednesday? Darating yung mga teachers. Walang dumating na teachers. They were all in the supermarkets ng UP. Maraming supermarkets sa UP, by the way. So sabi ko sa dean, nasan yung mga teachers mo? Darating na yun. Kaya na sila darating. Then tinanong ko rin sa isang dean, wala, dapat sila. Huwag kayong mabahala. Darating mga estudyante ko from PUP. And even if you can, faster than you can say, Chiribiribi, napuno yung recto hall ng UP. Not by the students of, mga estudyante ng UP, walang interest yan. Ang interest nila, fashion show, at saka mga artista, mapapalabas sila ng mga pelikulang condemn, mga pelikulang obscene in the name of art, ano? Usually mga pelikula ng mga bakla, ganyan, no? Yung mga pelikula ng mga binabae, palalabas doon, siksika sila dyan as artistic show. Kasi meron ng bakla film, ginawa yung mga binabae. But, the lecture on this hindi nilito yung mga. Ganyan ang UP. Kaya I thank my students from PUP. I can always rely on them. Thank you. Ito talaga ang PUP. Kaya, University of the People. Mga estudyante ko rin hindi nag-absent. Bihira. Takot sila malagay sa grade na mawala sila sa PUP. Of course, they come from the lower group, but they are so dedicated in their education. Talaga. Napansin ko, masarap magturo dyan kasi bawat araw inaasahan ng estudyante. Sa UP, optional. Sasabihin ng teacher, pasok kayo o hindi, okay lang yan. Makalagay na sila kung in the examination na halos di sila nakikita. Ewan ko ba talaga ganun ang UP. UP ko yan ha, I came from there, pero nung hindi naman ganyan ang UP. Kasi nangibabaw nga itong mga fashion show, artista, fashion show, artista. Sa UP ganyan din. Ang hilig sa mga artista, tsaka fashion show. UP, yes. Bibigmuno sila kapag may palabas ang mga artista. Yan ang UP ngayon. I know my UP. I came from UP. Pero hindi kaya ng UP when I was a student in the University of the Philippines. Nagkaganyan lang. Ayun. Diba? Okay. So kami, kayo, you are welcome. You are more than welcome. Naglakbay pa sila from Santa Mesa. Sige, pasok lahat. Now, let me continue. As I was saying, si Rizal talaga ang the greatest national hero up to now. Is regarded as the towering figure in the propaganda campaign. Yung Noli at Fili ni Jose Rizal should be read as one novel. Dalawa yan, pero isang novel lang talaga yan. Although these are two novels, I can call them as one novel with two parts. Part 1 at saka part 2. Yan ang Noli at Fili. And what did these novels do? First, they stated the dreams of the Filipinos. In the Noli Me Tangere, the most prominent character, of course, was Crisostomo Ibarra. But that is Jose Rizal as the principal figure of the propaganda movement. Hindi ako nagsasama sa dalawang nobela nito. Not only because I teach them every semester, but each time I read the Noli and Fili, may bagong lumalabas. Parang bago sa akin. I don't know. Binasa niyo na ba? Lalabas lahat ng panorama of characters. No? Maria Clara, Simon, and Ibarra. Pero each time I read them, nagiging something else ang Maria Clara Ibarra. Nag-evolve into something else, constantly evolving. When Rizal created such characters as Doña Victorina, Maria Clara, Tasio, Padre Salvi, Capitan Tiago, Basilio, Crispin, Padre Damaso. As you read them as characters, di ba? But as you read them again and again and again, they become symbols of contemporary culture. Nagiging simbolo sila. First, as characters, kamukha ni Maria Clara, then nagiging symbol of the Filipino, of Filipinism. Parang ganon. So, do not get tired reading those novels of Rizal. The characters represent cultural symbols in our country. And the Noli Me Tangere shows to you fictional characters, but they were characters based on historical persons. Those are fictional, you say, Maria Clara, fictional, si Ibarra, but in the mind of Rizal, they were prototypes of actual persons he knows in history. Kaya lang, pumasok sa art, kaya naging art rather than the real person. Maria Clara, we know Maria Clara as art. Pero, let me give you a test class. Di ba mas buhay si Maria Clara as a character symbol, as a literary cultural symbol, than a real person? Di ba? Halimbawa, yung kapitbahay ko, di ko alam ang kanyang interior characteristics. O yung nakasakay ko sa sasakyan, hindi ko kilala ang kanyang internal ways. Pero si Maria Clara, who is not a person, I know her motives, I know her internal characteristics, I know her internal behavior. Samantalang, mas kilala ko pa si Jose Rizal than my own, Maria Clara, than my own relative. Yung relative, nakikita ko lang pag Pasko. Nakikita ko lang pag homecoming. Pero Maria Clara, I know her very well. This is when art becomes more real. Ibig sabihin na, fiction, art, life, art. But life in art, life becomes more true. It becomes more intensely real. Because art has made it permanent. The permanence of art based on life. Parang the sunflower, no? The sunflower is a flower. But the painting sunflower is more intense, more intensely true than the sunflower, the real flower. Ganun ang art, it makes it permanent and it makes it more intensely real. O halimbawa, si Juan Crisostomo Ibarra, more real siya in the description than the person on which it was based. That is the permanence of art. And Jose Rizal excelled in that. So, the voice you hear from Rizal is not just the voice